I have leathered on. I'm really conscious that you had wanted to ask particular question.
Oh, I mean, I do have questions for you. Shall I ask you one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't have to answer any of them. These are my glasses that have got paint all over them. I've got three. I picked up the wrong ones. Everything's bluey pink. I've got quite a few here, so I'm going to just feel for a minute and go towards the one that feels just right. Okay, try this. So, as a child, what was the scariest thing you were expected to become as an adult?
Ooh, as a child. I think it 101 answers taking away.
Yeah, that's that. I get that completely. Me too. I
What
get
do I
like this.
start with? I think it was my family as a whole were very much people who, especially the women in the family, they'd had to work hard to prove themselves. Um, a very strong women line of women in my family, but they'd always had to sort of work hard, prove themselves, and making something of themselves wasn't really about a career in the sense of vocational. It was about money, property. Um, so I think I absorbed um, that growing up, was meant to um, preferably marry and have kids and marry a decent, hardworking husband with a good job, but very much get a good job myself that would earn a good salary so that I could buy the house, have the car. Um, it wasn't so much about being materialistic per se. I think it was just my family background. Because when my great gran came over to this country with her children, she had nothing. You know, um,
Where did she come from? Can I ask where she came from?
she was Swiss, but she was working in Paris, so it was First World War, um, and they fled because she married an Englishman, um, and then divorced him, but she was still known to have married an Englishman. So she fled with her children over here. Now over there, she kind of made something of herself, but she had to leave everything. So when she came to this country with her children, so my grandmother couldn't speak a word of English when she arrived here. She had nothing, so she had to start from nothing. Um, Worked all hours, worked her way up until eventually she bought a restaurant and her own restaurant, um, and cooked because I know my grandmother was a cook in that same restaurant, and that was all before my time. Then she gave that up and ran a guest house or whatever. So
A
she
real entrepreneur, Jacqui.
was an entrepreneur, yeah, and I don't think she ever had a social life. It was work, all work, everything was work, and it was to earn that money to put into property in that sense of that, so that you were going to be okay and your family was going to be okay. So that kind of ran through my family, and then with my grandmother, who was divorced. In those days, I mean, she was trying to save enough money to buy her house because my family all lived together. They were a typical continental family. But she was trying to buy a house to move into with her two sons, my mum and me. Um, and so she worked all hours, no hobbies, no nothing, just work, so she could get enough money together. And in those times, it's not that long ago, but she had to get her sons to sign the mortgage because she was a
She
woman.
was a woman.
So that kind of came into my upbringing. You know, study hard, work hard, get the good job. But I said there was nothing vocational in it. Get the job that is for you to express yourself, and it was just about the money. What
The
job?
money, the security,
So
independence.
it
Something about being independent and
it was about
secure.
independence, yeah. But that wasn't me. It wasn't. It was never me.
Mhm.
Um, and
So the echoes of them were always there.
yes, yeah,
Somehow you managed to find your way to be you.
yeah, because even but you see, I had that, which was in some ways been slightly contradicted by my mum, who had wanted to be a dancer. Well, she wanted she wanted to go to art college because her school had said she'd be good for it. And she was told no, you have to leave school, you have to go to work. That was squashed. And then I told her all this before, and then passing an audition to join a dance troupe on the
She
stage.
was really seen, wasn't she? Someone noticed her
Yes, yeah,
talent.
passed this audition, but under 21, my gran wouldn't sign the agreement. So that was that. So she had to. So I had this contradictory thing from my mum, who at one level was encouraging that side of me,
Mhm.
but would still say the things that my nan said in terms of the good job, the money, because mum was conflicted. And I know now, of course, that mum was conflicted. Um,
And
and
you are not so. Is that right? You're not so conflicted.
who,
You.
no, me, oh no, no, I wasn't conflicted at all. I know. If anything, now I want the money in the house. Why didn't I do that? But no, I never. It was just never part of me. I was always sort of wild and wacky, and And then when I started thinking about jobs, I went to either animal. It was going to be to do with animals, or it was going to be a people job. But it was never at that point. It's funny because I loved art, but I never thought about art in the sense of, or anything creative in the sense of this is what I could do, because it was never presented as any kind of option. But, it was always maybe teaching or social work, or, I wanted to do something to make a difference to help people. It was always something along those lines.
Help others.
Yeah. So I instinctively was looking for a more vocational path, that had nothing to do with buying the house, making the money, which I always saw as a burden. I didn't care about money. I
Oh.
just, you know, um,
There's something happening in me, Jacqui, is it okay for me to say? And I might be way off track, but there's something here about, your grandmother went through all that she went through, and mum, all this stuff to be independent and have security. And I'm just thinking of, was it your grandmother that had to get the sons to sign the paperwork?
yeah, yeah. My
She
mum's
earned the
mum.
money, mum's mum.
Yep.
She earned the money. She came up with the goods, but she
Yes.
needed the male signature for her
Yes.
to do the things she wanted to do. And, mum's desires were squashed and squashed as well. And
Yeah.
she had to go and do the thing that was expected of her.
Yeah.
And then I hear that when you were looking for work, it wasn't so much about the money or the security,
No,
but
never.
it was about helping others.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about how I'm wondering if maybe you were trying to help your gran and your mum in a way
Mm, I,
because of the things that kept getting in the way for them, and they were like barriers that held them back from doing and being them, being themselves.
yeah. I think it was more. I don't even really saw it as doing good. I just I enjoyed. Um, I think I enjoyed being among people,
Mm-hmm.
but in a
In a helping way.
in a helping way. And perhaps there was something being among people who were very non-threatening to me, whereas maybe somebody in the high-powered whatever would have been far more threatening to me. people I felt were on a level with. And I just enjoyed it. I just wanted to do things I enjoyed. I did work with a bit of work with people with learning disabilities. And of course, some of my creativity came out with that. I actually trained as a nurse with people with learning disabilities.
You training as a nurse?
I trained as a nurse with
people.
I never wanted to be a nurse. I never wanted to be, but I wanted to work with people with learning disabilities. And at that point, that was the main way in. So that's why I came up to Scotland, to a hospital up here.
I didn't know this. I didn't realise this. Wow.
But also, looking back on that, I was very creative in that. So it was really funny because while I was a student nurse, I kind of let the other student nurses get on with the nursey things. And I would do things like the music session. We'd make instruments out of yogurt pots and all the shaking and banging. And I remember the ward sister was delighted that somebody wanted to do that. But I didn't want to do the nursey things.
No,
I wanted to do measuring out the drugs and the, whatever injections. And, I just wanted to. So it actually, although the things I was doing, I did all kinds of stuff actually. I realise now there was a lot of creative scope in that as well. And it allowed my kind of wilder self as well, because my first sort of proper job really was this project where the 12 of us, we kind of lived in semi-community. It wasn't really what made community. We just happened to live in the same place. But it was actually run by the Methodist Missionary Society in London, and they had different things. They had a mothers and babies home. They had a down and out. And then they were more your traditional down and outs. A lot of them had been through the war, and just different. Anyway, they had soup runs right into it was the East End of London. We had a charity shop. So it was great for me because I wasn't doing the same thing all the time. You moved around the day, but I couldn't do the same thing. Yes. I mean,
given.
I mean, I know now again that's part of the ADHD that
it makes sense.
It was perfect for me. We had a lot of laughs, but also it was the serious side of things. But there was a lot of creativity in it, because when I was doing the mothers and babies home, it's that, I would take my guitar, we would have sing songs, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And that was, it was only a year. We could only do it for a year, and then there'd be a next. I wanted to stay. I wanted to stay. And but yeah, I had to move on. But so yeah, it was partly about doing things with people. It was Rosie's come to join in as usual. It was partly that it gave me scope to be doing something different all the time, but still build up. Not paid me nothing, pocket money, really.
But there was some enjoyment.
Yeah, and it gave me that sort of creative scope as well. And the same when I came up here and was doing the nursing training, because you within the one hospital, they called them wards, but like different units and different levels of mental and physical disability. But I loved it. Lots of experience, but all of that, and again, that didn't pay well either. And I think that was, my mum did worry about me, that I was never looking for anything that paid well. But it was more she was worried about me. But I think my nan, she despaired of me, because when was I ever going to get the good job that would. And ultimately, they were concerned about, because their worldview was one that if they didn't fight to get the money and the property and whatever, they were nothing. And, my worldview was so completely different.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, it was all of that really that was, I'd say it was hard for me, but actually it wasn't that hard, because I was just myself, and I didn't try and conform to that, because I couldn't. And I think that's where Mum was really good, because she went with it with me, you know.
She allowed that space for you to.
Yeah, and if anything, sort of helped me channel it a bit more, because it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have got that thing in the East End of London, that placement, you know. And I think because of her background of always having everything squashed, she wanted to, she wanted to do that. But I think later on, I wasn't a disappointment to my grandmother, but I think at that stage I was, because I was never going to be that person who could be squashed into a box.
No. And I imagine it would just like kill your soul to be
Oh, it would have.
into a box.
Yeah, yeah.